Not much has changed since this morning. The cuddlers are on. But the bags under my eyes have gotten progressively deeper and more baggy. And it's only been a few hours, so that's fantastic. The good news is that we have finished Leviticus, or after this speech here, we will finish Leviticus. And we've gotten through lots of rules and regulations and sanctifications and lots of things associated with the establishment of the first Israelite people and the lineages that we've been following since Genesis. So it's a very exciting time. There are some things that are going to be put into place, like some festival days, holidays, right? Good timing since we are just in that season as well. We're going to talk about some holidays and then some additional, I wouldn't say rules and regulations, but guidelines, right? Moral statutes that the Lord has instilled. But as we read, we will discover that it goes beyond morals. They're very, very specific. So let's go ahead and open up with a quote here. All good moral philosophy is but a handmaid to religion. And I do not quote, I'm wondering if it goes with this same quote here. De dignatate, et augmentis. I don't even know what this is. I'm so sorry. Gilbert Watts. I don't know if it goes along with this one, but we're just going to read this one. All good moral philosophy is but a handmaid to religion. And yes, we know that to be true just from reading these first few books, if not this book in particular. Moral philosophy is one thing, right? If you have good, sturdy morals, but all of the things that are required that come with the religion, right? The worship of a supreme being, it's far, far greater. Far, far, far greater. It takes much, much more commitment, much more time and physical sacrifice. Religion versus just moral standards or moral guidelines. Of course, these existing or historical moral guidelines that were seen as guidelines have kind of stretched over time and kind of became our standards of living now. But still, there was plenty of more detailed experiences that were going on back then versus what we do today. I mean, there's still a few things that we do that may seem a little bit out of sorts, but there's way more things that were done in the name of religion, right? Again, we know the definition of a handmaid, or we can have an idea of what a handmaid is. It's a subservient partner or element, right? Subservient partner or element. So we're talking about moral standards or morals being subservient to the whole overarching religion or idea of religion. And a religion is a particular system of faith and worship, or the belief and worship of a superhuman power or powers, God or gods, or a pursuit or interest to which someone ascribes supreme importance. So if that is not the summation of what we've talked about in Leviticus, supreme importance, right? Everything is repeated multiple times as far as the way that the sacrifices are done in the tent. Everything is repeated, very, very clear with fine detail. The construction of the tabernacle, the construction of the tent, and then again, different ways of managing the society, if you will, giving them rules, giving them things to go by and to reference, what not to do, right? Everything is incorporated. It's not just moral values, right? It's very, very in-depth how they should act. Again, it's to set them apart, like what we talked about, to set them apart in a good way, to place them in a different status or different stratosphere of these Canaanites or whomever, right? The people that they're going to then take over the land from. Yes, let's go ahead and get started. I have a few minutes here. Let's begin. I'm going to go through chapter 23 to chapter 27, just a few lines from each. So we're going over the different festivals that have been established, and Passover, we've heard about. The Lord has already established that one, but we're just running through it, and then a few others that were established when they were in Mount Sinai. So for Passover, it says, on the first day, hold a sacred assembly and do no regular work. Again, it goes on into detail, but then we continue on to the Festival of Weeks. It says, from wherever you live, bring 2 loaves made of 2/10 of an ephah of the finest flour, baked with yeast as a wave offering of firstfruits to the Lord. Then we go on to the Day of Atonement. The 10th day of this 7th month is a day of atonement. Hold a sacred assembly and deny yourselves, and present a food offering to the Lord. And we have the Festival of Tabernacles. These are the Lord's appointed festivals, which you are to proclaim as sacred assemblies for bringing food offerings to the Lord, the burnt offerings and grain offerings, sacrifices and drink offerings according to each day. So what this is telling me here is it's telling me that maybe the participation of the offering of sacrifices maybe has decreased over time as they were becoming, more established and what have you. Maybe the daily or weekly sacrifices that they have already been instructed to do have not been so frequent. There maybe has been no reason to perform these ritualistic sacrifices so often, right? Offering of food, what have you, the burnt offerings, that sort of thing. So the Lord had established a specific dates, right? Festivals, to where they are required to go ahead and still abide by these laws of sacrifice and offering, right? We have the burnt offerings, grain offerings, that sort of thing. They offered different foods. And it says, by each stack of bread, put some pure incense as memorial portion to present the bread to be a food offering presented to the Lord. This bread is to be set out before the Lord regularly, Sabbath after Sabbath, on behalf of the Israelites as a lasting covenant. So again, like what I was saying, he's reminding them, hey, like maybe you don't have to do a whole burnt offering or live animal sacrifice, that sort of thing, all the time, but something that you should be doing every Sabbath are these bread offerings. So it was a bread and olive oil offering. That is what was required. Stacked bread, and then with the incense and olive oil as well. That was not mentioned, but it is in there if you look. That was something Sabbath after Sabbath, just stick to something, right? So again, even then, even though we have all these things and all these things set in place, it's hard to maintain over a long time. So it has to be spaced out. Anyways, some more rules being set place. So the 10 commandments are there and they're clear, but there was really no punishment set up for the 10 commandments. It just was kind of like, don't do this or else. So now at the end of Leviticus, we learn that yes, there are going to be consequences for the actions that take place. So he says here very clearly, anyone who takes the life of a human being is to be put to death. Fracture for fracture, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. The one who has inflicted the injury who has afflicted the injury must suffer the same injury. So again, this is very different than Jesus's words and Jesus's ideologies, right? It was to keep the scales even and to balance things out. Again, something that God had instructed people to manage the people of this time, make the justice system effective. So says some more rules here. Do not reap what grows of itself or harvest the grapes of your untended vines. The land is to have a year of rest. Whatever the land yields during the Sabbath year will be food for you, food for yourself, your male and female servants, and the hired worker and the temporary resident who live among you, as well as for your livestock and the wild animals in your land. Whatever the land produces may be eaten. So this is something that took place every 7th year. There was a year of rest. So they were not supposed to tend the fields. They were supposed to take essentially a whole year off. Let's see, I want to say it's just called the Sabbath year, but I already forget from the time that I wrote this to now what this was. This was the Sabbath year. Yep, the Sabbath year. It says, for 6 years sow your fields, and for 6 years prune your vineyards and gather their crops. But in the 7th year the land is to have a year of Sabbath rest. So not only is the Sabbath holy for the people every week, there's going to be a Sabbath year, or a 7th year of rest. And it's clear here, do not tend the vines, do not do anything. And then whatever the land yields, unpruned, untended, that is the food, right? Pretty straightforward. So, do not take advantage of each other, but fear your God. I am the Lord your God. Again, a reminder not to take advantage of one another. Do not win people over by one way or another. The God is the focus. God is the focus. I am the Lord your God. So with this too, I kind of just jumped really fast, but the fact that he's instilling the Sabbath year, that is also showing you the amount of time that they are in this section of Mount Sinai. So it's saying for 6 years sow your fields. So again, this is say they just stayed for one segment of 7 years. Still a long time, right? It doesn't seem, it seems like, oh, maybe they were there a few months, but no, it's years and years and years. They're growing their peoples and their army, essentially. So many years that takes. Let's go ahead and continue on. If one of your fellow Israelites becomes poor and sells some of their property, their nearest relative is to come and redeem what they have sold. If, however, there is no one to redeem it for them, but later on they prosper and acquire sufficient needs to redeem itself, they are to determine the value for the years since they have sold it. Sold their property. They are to determine the value for the years since they had sold it and refund the balance to the one to whom they had sold it. They could then go back to their own property. So again, not to take advantage of anyone, to look out after one another. It says the nearest relative can come and help, right? But it says also if they have gained whatever they lost back and they can buy their property back, they are to reacquire their property. No one is to take advantage and jack up the price or whatever, how the real estate works nowadays, but that was the times to look out for one another. If any one of your fellow Israelites becomes poor and are unable to support themselves among you, let's fix this typo here. Help them as you would a foreigner and a stranger, so they can continue to live among you. Do not take interest or any profit from them, but fear your God, so they may continue to live among you. You must not lend them any money at interest or sell them food at profit. So again, if somebody is struggling, there's no reason to screw them over more, screw them over more than they already are. Look out for one another. There's no interest for you to offer them money at interest or sell them food for profit. That doesn't make any sense even today. But of course, it's something that still takes place. But again, that's not how the operation is supposed to go. If a foreigner residing among you becomes rich, and any of your fellow Israelites have become poor and sell themselves to the foreigner or to a member of the foreigner's clan, they retain the right of redemption after they had sold themselves. One of their relatives may redeem them. So again, relatives can come to a rescue. It's not all is lost. Also highlighting on the importance of family. It says, I will grant peace in the land, and you will lie down, and no one will make you afraid. I will remove wild beasts from the land, and the sword will not pass through your country. You will pursue your enemies, and they will fall by the sword before you. So again, we're going through all of these systematic ways of how to keep these people at peace. And he's saying, if you listen to me, if you obey what I'm saying, you will be in peace forever, and you will lie down, and no one will make you afraid. Your enemy, and you'll be at peace. You'll lie down, and no one will make you afraid. So their enemies will not be able to overtake them ever. They will always be protected, always be sanctified. They will not have any issues. It doesn't come without challenges, of course. There will be challenges always, But as far as remaining, on top, essentially, it's there. The promise is there. But there's a caveat. If you do not listen to me and carry out all these commands, and if you reject my decrees and abhor my laws, and fail to carry out all my commandments, and so violate my covenant, I will set my face against you, so that you will be defeated by your enemies. Those who hate you will rule over you, and you will flee even when no one is pursuing you. If in spite of this you still do not listen to me, but continue to be hostile towards me, then in my anger I will be hostile towards you, and I myself will punish you for the sins 7 times over. They will stumble over one another as though fleeing from the sword, even though no one is pursuing them. So you will not be able to stand before your enemies. So again, the rewards for doing all the good things is like this long. The punishment for doing all of the bad things is this long, right? We've got to be mindful. It's like, even though this covenant is there, it's a two-way street. It's not just, yes, I'm going to do this for you. You have to do this for me in order for me to do this for you. If you don't do this for me, I'm not going to do this for you. But yes, big deal, big deal. That's why it's important to really look at everything. And of course, we're not doing so many bad things. I know nobody on my live is doing bad things, but it just helps to put things into perspective, to really think about there are repercussions, right? As your parents would say, there are repercussions. The Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and say to them, if anyone makes a special vow to dedicate a person to the Lord by giving the equivalent value." So this is a little confusing here. It actually took me a Google search to look up the context. But imagine after hearing all of this, like, if you do not do what I'm asking you and you break the covenant, this is what will happen. You're in fear, right? You're in fear. You're like, oh my goodness, right? So some people decided to actually dedicate themselves to the Lord, or to the church, if you will, to the Lord. And they wanted to dedicate their lives. They're like, I do not want to look anywhere else. I want to be devoted to you 100%. So people were in fear, and they were also just really looking for that assurance and that guarantee that, yes, you're doing the right thing. You'll be fine. Don't worry. That sort of thing. So they were offering themselves up as servants to the Lord, and they were offering themselves up as servants to the church, that sort of thing. Dedication by like working in different church things. I don't really exactly know what they were offering themselves, right? But just their whole lives essentially just guaranteed to the Lord. They were going to service the church and the priests and help them out, kind of like what you would like a church congregation or altar people or what have you, right? So anyways, this is what they're talking about here. If anyone makes a special vow to dedicate a person to the Lord by giving the equivalent value. So say they make this vow and they can't help clean up after a sacrifice or something like that. Or, they're sick and they're old. They can't do something for whatever reason. It's supposed to be the first giving to the church, right? This is kind of the first time giving to the church has been established. If you can't serve physically, then you just give money. So that's kind of the beginning of donating to a church or what have you. It says, for a person 60 years or older or more, set the value of the male at 15 shekels and of the female at 10 shekels. If they dedicate a field during the year of Jubilee, the value that has been set remains. So again, year of Jubilee is another holiday that it was in the line of holidays, but we didn't discuss it. But I'm not going to get into it right now because I'm already running low on time. It says, no one, however, may dedicate the firstborn of an animal, since the firstborn already belongs to the Lord. Whether an ox or a sheep, it is the Lord's. If it is one of the unclean animals, it may be bought back at its set value, adding a fifth of its value to it. And if it is not redeemed, it is to be sold at a set value. So again, dedicating your time, I think that's kind of what I was looking for. Dedicating your time in service is, just and rightful, but sometimes we don't have time. We run out of time, so money or an animal, right, would suffice for your lack of time or service. pretty basic. We still uphold these things. We still go to church or give to the church or what have you, one way or another. So my voice is gone. I really didn't do too much today. My voice is running low. That's it, you guys. That's all of Leviticus. I know it seems like a lot, but it really wasn't too much. Sorry, you can hear my flipping. It really wasn't too crazy. I'm just looking ahead to see what else there is. We have Numbers next. We're going to go through Numbers. We're going to see what happens in Numbers. Do they go to the Promised Land? Do they make it? Will we have to wait till Deuteronomy? I don't know. I didn't read that far ahead yet. So God bless you guys. Thank you for listening and wrapping up this final section of Leviticus with me. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and thank you. Bye-bye.